Good morning and welcome to WREA's Wisconsin Wednesday. We're talking about financial wellness this year. And my name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors. We're joined by the WREA staff. Thank you for joining us. I apologize for some of the technical issues that may have happened as we were in the process here. We're going to get that fixed and worked out here. Just a couple of quick housekeeping details before we get started. All participants are in a listen only mode. And what that means is that we can't see you like the Brady Bunch look. But if you have questions or you want to have make comments, feel free to drop them into chat, into Q&A, and we can pause periodically and answer those questions depending upon who it's directed to. And at the end of the conversation, what we can do is we can stop the recording and then allow you to hold up your hand on the reaction toolbar and let you speak and share and things like that as well. So you'll also notice that QR code down there on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That's the easiest way to get more information about some of the conversations we talk about today. And I'll share with you at the end how to use that QR code. Before we get started here, it is Teacher Appreciation Week. And I know most on our call today are retired educators, but I still want to thank you very much for what you've done in the classroom and what you continue to do to support those active educators as well. So thank you very much for that. So let's go ahead and get rolling on through the conversation here today. And I want to bring Diane in here, kind of update us on what took place last week. Tell us about the conference and what your plans are going into the summer.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. And as John said, it is Teacher Appreciation Week, so reach out to a teacher who is still working and just say thank you for everything that they do. As John said, yes, last week, Wednesday, we had our spring district meeting. We were at the Osthoff on the eastern part of the state. And as you can see from the pictures here, we had a lot of fun. It was a great conference as far as speakers. We at a great venue. We had a representative from the Green Bay Packers speak to us about some opportunities and what the Packers do to reach out to nonprofits. As you can see, the bottom left is a snapshot of our attendees. We had over 100 people there from across the state, very interactive people, really spent a lot of time sharing within their districts, within their chapters, and with the WREA. On the right-hand side, you can see our favorite MJ participating in the celebration that we had. And we had the celebration basically to celebrate the annuity increase that we just got. Everybody should have gotten a very nice increase on May 2nd with that check that was deposited into their account. So we have lots of reasons to celebrate. So it was a great time for everyone. And just the camaraderie, the first time we were back in person. And so everybody was really grateful, and it really was a great event. A couple of things coming up, just to remind you, we do have a fireside chat the second Thursday of every month. Next week, Thursday, I will be hosting John Volker from ETF. That is the group that gives out our annuity checks. So I'm sure he is going to talk about the increase and how that came about. So if you haven't signed up yet, you can go to the WREA website, www.wrea.net. And under the events tab, you can sign up for that session. It's from 10 to 11 every second Thursday, and especially this one with John. A couple of things coming up also in the future. In June, we have a day-long training on legislative advocacy. We know that this session, this voting come this fall is going to be very critical, and 50 plus voters play an especially important role in voting. So we're going to talk about how to advocate for the issues and talking about voting and how you can register, etc. We also have a membership training in July that we will be going over some new ideas as to membership recruitment, retainment, to grow our membership in WREA. All of these events can be found on the website under the events tab. So feel free to go there, peruse them, and sign up for those that you're interested in. So again, thank you for being here. It's kind of sunny here right now, so hopefully it'll stay that way and no more rain for a while. So John, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Diane. Looks like it was a great time. I'm looking forward to being with y'all in September at your fall conference. So looking forward to that. I know MJ said this was a great event. I know it's more important, just glad to be back together. It's good to be back together. Just a quick reminder, I'm John Green. I live a little bit north of Houston. I work with Association Member Benefits Advisors. My wife of 33 years is a second grade elementary school teacher going through a teacher appreciation week this week. It has been a rough year. So as Diane said, tell your teachers that are working, how much you appreciate them. I spent the better part of my career working with active educators, helping them understand what their retirement years are going to look like. And so that kind of informs some of our conversation today and some of the feedback that we're going to be able to share with you that we've gotten from you that helps kind of construct how we put together this presentation. Joining me today is your co-host and my co-host and your leader for AMBA in the Wisconsin area. So MJ, I know you're coming to us bright and early where you are this morning. So introduce yourself to the group and kind of tell us some more about you.
Good morning, everyone. It's MJ, as John had mentioned. And yes, it's bright and early where I am. So I am on a little vacation getaway. And it's kind of funny because I was on a call earlier this morning with a couple that we're working with on the program that we're going to talk about today. And I had to kind of chuckle because we always use the analogy that if you're in Vegas and you're ahead, that you should go to bed, right? Like take it and go to bed, like just be done. So that's exactly what I did last night. I came back to the room and that was it. So we're here out in Vegas for just a few days to kind of get away. But that is a picture of my husband and I. And we've been together since, my goodness, since 1989 and been married for over 28 years now. We've got two boys. Chris is actually on the call. You've heard me talk about Chris, and my younger son, John, is going to be starting next week, Monday, actually. So the only thing I have to do is figure out if I can get the husband set up, and then they'll have the whole Woodall clan. But we're really happy to work with all of the members in WREA and be able to help you and make sure that we can help protect you where maybe, your insurance stops, or help protect you in other areas, and also help with membership for each of your local chapters as well as the state. And so that is a little bit about me. This is a picture of my husband and I. We went to last fall to the inaugural Honor Flight ball, the gala that was held to raise money for our veterans so that they can actually take that honor flight. So it's just something that we love to be able to do, which is give back to our community as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to John, and I'm going to go back on mute.
All right, MJ, before you go on mute, who's taking care of Bucky?
Bucky, so my younger son, John, is still at home. So Bucky is with him.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty sad. Apparently he doesn't like it when mom's not around. So,
Exactly.
but he did. I should have sent this to you, John. He actually tried to jump into my suitcase.
Okay.
And like he would, every time I was packing something when I was getting ready to leave, he was taking it and running off with it. So it was kind of a very adventurous time to get packed up and ready to fly out here.
And our dogs know that. I mean, with the dog we used to have got depressed when he sees suitcases pulled out. They know. So, okay, great. Thank you very much. Glad Bucky's taken care of. Chris, welcome on the call today, and look forward to having John join us as well. And Diane mentioned this. I just want to remind you from the standpoint of what WREA does on your behalf. First and foremost, to make sure that your pension is protected, that it's there when you need it to be, and it's there because what you've worked all your career for. And pretty exciting about the increase that you got. A lot of states do not get increases, regardless of the number of members they have in the Retired Teachers Association. So what you've done up there is very important there. Also to preserve those benefits that you took out from the school when you left. Keep you connected. As Diane mentioned, the first time back together in a couple of years. That's so important to see your friends, not only from a personal standpoint, but also to be able to come together on certain issues and things like that. And then to top it off with discounts, benefits, and all those kind of fun stuff as well that really makes your retirement years more fulfilling. And we're going to talk about those as we go through today. Just a quick reminder, the benefits of having WREA partnered up with AMBA to help fill some of those gaps that aren't covered by your state benefits, your district benefits, whatever you left there. They're portable for whatever reason. They're not tied to a network or anything of that nature. So if you snowbird down in the South with us, you can use your benefits down here. If you leave the state of Wisconsin for whatever reason, you've got that ability to do that. But some of the best reasons that people tell us that they really appreciate having a WREA membership and the relationship with AMBA is they can extend their benefits to their adult children who may be aged out of their school benefits, or to their parents, things like that, that they can be able to take care of their parents if their parents are still living, and maybe keep them in their home or provide the care for them in the manner in which they want to be cared for today. We're going to talk about some things today it's a little bit of a mix. I just kind of lump it into a financial wellness conversation. A lot of these topics are driven off of emails back to me, chats during the webinars. Hey, can you talk about this? Can you talk about these different things? So we kind of, MJ and I put these all together into one conversation to kind of show you some of the Medicare changes that took place this year at the beginning of the year and how to be a more smart healthcare consumer. We're going to show you some of the gaps that even after Medicare or after state medical insurance or your spouse's medical insurance that you're going to have. We're going to talk about some financial tips. These are some things, as Diane mentioned, you're getting an increase in your pension, which is great, but I know inflation is following right on the heels of that. And so just some ways that maybe you can stretch your dollars a little bit further, some ways that you can get your financial house in order, for lack of a better term. And then we're going to talk about the impact of required minimum distributions, a little bit different topic than we've ever talked about before. Because there was a major law change a little over a year ago, it's starting to impact retirees now in a different way. And for those of you who may be getting into that age where you need to take out your required minimum distributions, we're going to talk about what you can do with those and what you need to avoid and look out for as well. So we're going to jump right on in here and talk about Medicare. Because as you know, beginning of the year, if you're on Social Security, you got a Social Security bump in your check. Well, right behind that came the Medicare increases for Part A, Part B, deductibles, copays, all that kind of mess like that. At the same time those increases were going into effect, the changes that Medicare were putting into place many years ago were really starting to hit home in 21 and 22. And these are cuts that they've made. And it's not necessarily that they have been stopping procedures, but what they do is they will shave reimbursement rates off on medications, shave reimbursement rates off to medical providers, or they'll reclassify procedures that in the past, had you had that procedure, you would have qualified for some sort of rehabilitation benefits afterwards, skilled nursing care, but now the same procedure doesn't qualify for that anymore. So these cuts have added up into billions and billions of dollars. Didn't matter the administration that was in Washington. Those changes and cuts have been coming all throughout, regardless of the administration or who was in power at the time. But this is kind of how it plays out a little bit. I want to give you an example of how some of these cuts in Medicare or reclassifications or reimbursement rate changes have impacted the front end Medicare user on the end. And let's just take, for instance, Grace, who's a member of the association, and she had cancer many, many years ago. And so now she goes to a physician's clinic near her community where she receives some type of IV immune suppression therapy that keeps her immune system strong, to boost it up so that she can ward off a recurrence of certain type of cancer. Well, Medicare comes in and they reduce that medication reimbursement rate by 2%. 2% doesn't seem like a lot to you and I. It could be if you're just on a pure fixed income, but 2% to a doctor, a medical physician's clinic, that type of cut can all of a sudden make it unprofitable, or where he loses money to provide that service. So the physician's clinic decides they can no longer accept Medicare patients for this type of procedure. That forces Grace to do one of two things. She can pay for it out of her pocket and receive the care where she's been going for the past 8 years, somewhere that's close or more familiar with people she likes, or she may have to drive a good ways to go to a Medicare clinic that can provide the service for her. So that's just some of the ways that Medicare slowly chips away to save big dollars, but can really impact individuals at the local level. So that's just some of the ways that are out there. And some other things that you may not be aware of, and especially when you talk about with Social Security increases and pension increases, your Medicare costs are tied to your income. Once you reach a certain household income, Medicare premiums go up. But if you had a life-changing event last year or a life-changing event this year, such as a marriage, a divorce, or a death, or maybe you stopped working your second job in your retirement years from teaching, and your income went down. If you had one of those life-changing events, I'd encourage you to go out to the Social Security Administration. SSA 44 is the form that you want to file, and that can possibly lower your Medicare premiums based on your change in your income status or life-changing event in 2021. So if any of one of those things happen to you, look for the SSA 44 Medicare income related monthly adjusted amount, and it's possible that it can lower your Medicare premiums. So those are the things you need to look out for. As we saw, unfortunately, many people pass away during COVID. Expenses or second job go down, something like that could impact your income, and now you may be eligible for a lower rate for your Medicare premiums. Let's jump in and talk about several different ways that you can be a better healthcare consumer. And the first and foremost is knowing your plans. Every year, depending upon the type of plan that you're on, whether you have some type of private medical insurance through a spouse, some type of retiree medical through the state, through your school district, or through Medicare, there are always changes to copays, deductibles, co-insurance expenses, and maximum out-of-pocket limits. Things that you may on the surface say, well, my premiums didn't change. Well, internally, these are ways that insurance companies, hospital networks, things like that, can keep premiums flat, but costs can go up internally inside of that. So you need to be aware of that. And there's some ways that you can be a better healthcare consumer. Understanding your coverage, whether it's Medicare, a supplement, Med Advantage, retiree health, private care, whatever it is, understanding how your coverage works can make you a better consumer. Because built inside of your plans, oftentimes are perks and incentives that say if you'll take certain preventative or wellness checks, things like that, they will reimburse you certain dollar amount or give you gift cards, things of that nature, ways to try to get you to be better healthcare consumers up front, take advantage of preventative care situations to prevent bigger issues in the long run. Sometimes there are perks out there. If you join like the Silver Sneakers programs or the exercise programs, some plans have apps that you can track your steps, things of that nature, get you enrolled in discounts, stuff like that. Take advantage of that. Ask for pricing transparency. And this is a big one. Oftentimes you think, well, because I'm in a network or I'm in a Med Advantage program or something like that, that everything's all grand. I'll give you an example. I have very good insurance through work, but it has to go through a network. My wife was sick with seasonal allergies last fall. She knew what it was. She knew it was a sinus infection, and she knew that all she needed was some amoxicillin and a steroid shot. Well, she called the doctor. The doctor said, we won't see you unless you go take a COVID test. Then we're going to talk to you through the phone, all this kind of stuff like that. So she scheduled a teledoc visit. That teledoc visit ended up being $200 in and of itself, that she wasn't aware that was going to be. She may have done something differently had she done that, had she known that it was going to cost that much. So like I said, ask for pricing transparency. This is a couple of different reasons. One, like I mentioned with my wife, but secondly, because if you're going in to have a procedure, and even if you're in a network or anything like that, there's a chance that there may be some specialists outside of your network that are participating somewhere in your procedure. It could be an MRI reading, it could be a radiologist, it could be anesthesiologist, something that's outside of your primary care physician and network that you're not aware of. If you'll ask for that price transparency up front, it will allow you to, one, not be surprised, two, ask to say, hey, is there a way I can get somebody that is in the network that flows, that keeps it all under a certain price? And shopping around for services that way can do that. And then finally, fifth and foremost, don't skip your preventative care. So many of us did that during the past couple of years, not wanting to go to a medical facility, any type of hospital. I encourage you, get back in, get your preventative care, get your scans, your health checkups, things like that, because that's the best way to take care of yourself in the long run and prevent those medical challenges going forward. And so MJ and I, our role is to work with Diane, Lori, and Annalise and kind of say, all right, based on what most of the members have, based on what law changes that are out there, based on how Medicare works, based on medical insurance, what's missing, what gaps are out there. And we've identified 4 major gaps that we see that regardless of whether you're on a medical plan under 65 or whether you're on Medicare and a supplement over 65, there's little to zero coverage for any type of home health care, facility care, especially when there's not an accident or something that causes immediate need for skilled care. The coverage for cancer, heart attack, and stroke for the medical procedures is pretty good. What really comes down to are the after effects, the transportation costs, the comfort care items, some of the rehabilitation services. All these little things add up to about 60% of the cost related to cancer, heart attack, and stroke are not covered by Medicare and medical insurance. And then with ambulances and air ambulances, we see more and more of these available, but they're not in networks, or they're not, I should say, they're not adhering to the Medicare fee schedule. So Medicare may reimburse up to a certain amount, but then you're left with a significant dollar amount on top of that from a medical transportation area. And then there's not any coverage for final expense. If something does happen, you have to pass away. So there are some gaps that are out there. As good as Medicare and Medicare supplements are, and most healthcare insurance plans, there's some major gaps that really can put you at a financial lurch if something happens out that way. So we've talked about medical insurance and Medicare as a whole. I want to get into some more tactical ways that you can work on your finances at home, some financial wellness things that can impact your spending, your planning and organization, your insurance outside of medical related insurance and things like that. And then we're going to touch on just a little bit about protecting your nest egg and kind of continue that conversation that MJ talked about when you've had a good day at the tables, taking some off and going to bed, you know, that type of thing. So let's jump in here and talk about the three big budget items that we have. For those of us, for most of us, regardless of whether you've paid off your house or not, housing, transportation, and food are our three big expenditures. And inflation is hitting these in different ways. And so I want to share with you, not necessarily tips on how to save here, but just some trends that you may start to read about, that you may see of how people are saving money, making money, stretching money in these three areas here. In terms of housing, and I think about this for my mom, she lives in the same house that we grew up in. It's a two-story house. She doesn't need the space. You're going to see a lot of trends about downsizing because home prices are so high right now that you're able to tap some of that equity in your home and maybe get to a smaller house that costs less to operate, maintain, things like that. You're going to also hear this term called house hacking. And it's an interesting term. And a lot of people think, well, things like Airbnb, putting your house into a rental pool if you need, you know, or a secondary home, something like that, if you're gone, using it for that way. That's one way. House hacking is now broader. The articles talk about, you know, renting out another room to someone from your church, family member, something like that, as a way to make money with your home. The newest way that people are making money with their home, especially if they've got a storage shed in their backyard or room in their garage, is putting their extra storage space into almost like an Airbnb or an Uber for home storage. So instead of people paying $100 and something a month to store their stuff at a community storage facility, they would use a portion of your garage and pay you $50 or $75 a month. It's just another way to make income off of your home. So when you see this term house hacking, you can all tell your friends, oh, I know what that means. It's ways to make money with your home that way. Secondly, used vehicles are at an all-time high as well. Because of the chip shortage through all of COVID, new vehicles aren't out there. So car dealerships had to find a way to keep afloat. So they started paying over the amount for used vehicles. So if you've got vehicles you don't use and you need to sell them, now's the best time to do that. You can take advantage of getting more money for that. If you've got less need, there are some car hacking services, Turo, things like that, that allow you to put your car into kind of a rental pool and make money that way. You need to check your insurance company to see if you can do that from that perspective, if you have coverage for that. And then we'll talk about in the insurance, there are some ways that you'll want to reevaluate your driving that could save you money. And if you've been to the grocery store, you know that food prices are going up. Take advantage of the Passport program that's free with your WREA membership. Meal prep services out there that can cut down on waste and get you just the right amount of food that you need. And if you're dining out, you know, save 15, 20% on a lot of local restaurants in Wisconsin, across the country. Save money that way, especially if you're starting to travel. So use that Passport program. When it comes to just regular old home, auto, and life insurance, some things you need to look at from your auto perspective are your deductibles. You may have a low deductible on your car, meaning that you're going to pay the first $50, $100, $200 if you get into an accident. Consider moving that up to 500 or 1,000. It may seem like a lot at one time, but you may save that amount of money over a period of time, changing your deductibles. Look at your liability coverage. It's very possible that you're being rated based on still going to and from work. And you may have been retired for a few years and you want, get a pleasure rate or get a lower mileage rate if you're not driving as much. Contact your agent and tell them, please look at re-rating me based on a lower mileage. If I'm not driving as much, you can save money that way. Look for affinity discounts through associations, through organizations that have a discount for being a retired teacher, things of that nature. You can find 5-10% here and there. Specialty coverage is another situation where you may have in the past had specialty coverage on your vehicle for pet insurance, for pet coverage, or coverage for being at school, certain things like that you no longer need because you're not giving private lessons if you're a music teacher, something like that. You can go in and ask to have that specialty coverage dropped off, may save you some money that way. And then I'll recommend this for everything. Shop around. There are many companies, if you've been claim free, been with your carrier for 2 or 3 years or more, they're willing to give you a sizable new business discount just to come over. And so take a look at that way, but also be sure that you're not leaving some benefits on the table, such as maybe some claim forgiveness that you've earned or some renewal discounts, things like that that you've earned on the auto side. On the home side, where you really want to pay attention to is your replacement value on your home. Now, the replacement value on your home is not what you could sell it for. It's not what the tax rolls say it is. It's what would happen if the insurance company had to come in, bulldoze your house, clean the slab off, and start from scratch again to put you back where you were before. And some companies will put an automatic 3% increase every year on the value of your home to build up your replacement cost value because raw materials are high, labor's low, that kind of thing. Over a period of time, that may have gotten out of whack. So I'd encourage you, have the insurance agency rerun your home value and find out if it's in line, that type of thing. Again, look at your deductibles for 2 reasons. Make sure that if you've got a deductible that maybe is $1,000, maybe going to 1% can save you quite a bit of money that way. The other thing is that some companies, and I don't see it as much in the upper Midwest as I see it more in the Midwest and in the South, in the hurricane areas and the hail areas. They may have put on your homeowner's insurance a storm deductible that is separate from your normal deductible. If you have a fire, you'd pay your deductible, but if you had a hailstorm, you have to pay more out of your pocket to get your roof replaced. So take a look at that. If you've done major renovations, such as a roof replacement, rewiring the house, plumbing, things like that, call your insurance agent. There may be discounts for those major renovations. Look at bundling, meaning that you would go with auto and home together with one company. You can get some pretty sizable discounts that way as well. When it comes to life insurance, I'm a huge proponent of life insurance at all ages or all stages of our life, but you need to sit down and look at, do I still need what I have? Do I need more? Do I have an old term policy that may be expiring here in a few years, but I still need coverage? You may want to look at some of the provisions in there because when it goes to permanent, the older we get, the more expensive it is. But look at your policies. Some of the policies have maybe a terminal illness or a nursing home rider on them that may give you some long-term care coverage. So take a look at that. There are some options out there. And then if you decide, hey, I've got a life insurance policy, but I don't need it anymore for whatever reason that is, consider keeping it, donating it to a charity, leave a legacy, pay for kids, grandkids, college, things like that. So again, always look at your insurance every year because there could be some changes that can save you money on the front end, but really save you money on the back end in the event of a claim. All right. I want to take a quick survey here. One of the biggest and best things that you can do for yourself, for your own peace of mind, and for your family is to create an in case of death or disaster folder, okay? And I'll tell you, I've got one of these by our phone downstairs. It's in a clear plastic folder, pocket folder, and it contains all the things I'm going to show you in a moment. We've got it for 3 reasons. 1, we live close to the coast. Hurricane comes in, we can grab all our documents and go if necessary. We have to evacuate. 2, My wife was in New York several years ago with my daughter. She had her purse stolen, and we were able to pull that folder. She called me. I was able to cancel everything, credit cards, all that kind of stuff within a few minutes, get the bank on the line, stuff like that. And then from a final planning situation, meaning that if something happened to you and you passed away or somebody needed to take care of you, where are all your documents? Where are your checklists? So I want to take a real quick poll here and just ask, do you have, before I tell you what's in the ICOD folder, do you have some type of ICOD in case of death, disaster folder? So answer the poll here. Again, it's totally anonymous. I just want to kind of get a look at who's got some planning preparation in here, and then talk about some elements of a good folder out here. Okay, we've almost 100% participation. We'll lose a couple more, a few more seconds out there, and I'll share with you. About 3 more seconds. All right, I'm going to end this poll and share the results with everyone. We've got a pretty good 50-50 split, yes and no. So congratulations. We're going to talk about this, and at the end of our conversation today, if you want a copy of this, and I'll show you how to get a hold of it and how we can take care of that for you. But when you're putting together an ICOD folder, in case of death or disaster folder, you want to look at 6 different categories. You want to look at, and here's how we've done it at our house. We haven't actually put the documents in there. What we've done is we've maybe copied the first sheet of it, wrote on there a note, it's in this folder, or here's who to contact, or it's got a policy number, something like that. So that way we don't have a folder that's 2 or 3 inches thick. We just have the highlights with the directions where to go with the phone numbers. Any life events, birth certificates, any divorce decrees, marriage licenses, adoption paperwork that way. Then from a life insurance and retirement perspective, and I want to spend a little bit of time on this one, make sure you put your life insurance policies in there. Again, just the front page with the policy number, maybe the amount, who to contact, and your beneficiaries. And I say this because you want to always check your beneficiaries, because I have delivered many checks to where I've delivered 2 checks, one to the oldest son or daughter, one to the middle, but not to the third, because the third came along later in life in the marriage and never got added onto the policy. That's a difficult conversation to have. What's more difficult is when I go visit a grieving widow and she asked about life insurance, and I said, well, here's the $5,000, whatever small amount, but I'm taking a much bigger check to the ex-spouse because that was never changed in the process. So please, please, please check your beneficiaries. The same beneficiaries I want you to check on life insurance, check on your pension paperwork as well. That is so huge. You may have selected, and whenever that first new check just came in or comes in with that new amount that's on there, the new increase, the COLA, check your beneficiaries. Check how you have decided to take your pension out, because the reason I say this, you may have decided I'm going to take my pension out 100%. It's the most money I can get, but when I pass away, my surviving spouse or beneficiaries will receive nothing else. Find out what that is. Make sure you've got all that in there, because somebody may be expecting that pension payment after you pass away, and it may not be set up to do it that way. When it comes to banking, put your bank account numbers in there. Now that we do so much of mobile banking and online, put your password, your login information. Same for your credit cards. If you have safety deposit boxes, you can put your keys in there. You can put the location of the keys, but just correspond the keys to the bank. My father-in-law's father, my wife's grandfather, passed away several years ago and left my father-in-law with a big brown craft envelope with 10 safety deposit box keys. Nothing to know what banks they went to, nothing to know where the location was or what was in them at all. And we live in Houston, and you can imagine in a city of 5 million people, there's a lot of banks. My father-in-law and mother-in-law spent months going to banks going, is this your key? Can I get in? That kind of thing. Put information about those safety deposit boxes in there. That will save your beneficiaries and your family a lot of time that way. Then you want to put your assets and liabilities in there. All your property deeds. Again, it doesn't have to be the whole thing. Just put, I've got deeds to these things. Any timeshare stuff you've got, car titles. This is where you want to put the information about any 401k, 403bs, IRAs, including your passwords in there. Any other type of ownership or loans that you've made. Those are all the assets in there. Then put your liabilities in there. If you still have a mortgage, any type of reverse mortgage, if you did any home equity loans, anything that you've taken out on your home, and then any type of debts that you've owed. One thing I notice when people pass away is all of a sudden debt collectors come out of the woodwork. And not all of them are on the up and up. So you want to have what you know you owe in there and make sure that you've got that, so that again protects your family that way. Then just a quick checklist of your monthly expenses. And the reason I put this out there is not for you to say I'm embarrassed of what I've spent money on. It's because in our home office, every week we get calls from family members that say mom passed away 2 years ago and you've been taking out dental premiums every month for the past 2 years. Those kind of things you can head off quickly if you just put on here are my subscriptions, here are my loans, here are all my different things that I have. Those monthly expenses, they can be shut off pretty quickly after you pass away. Social media is big. Emails, putting all the Facebook accounts, your email account numbers, your cell phone, any streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus, computer passwords, ways to get at that can make it much easier. Then put your contact details, who your doctor is, who your AMBER representative, lawyer, minister, all those type of things, just so it's easier to go out after those individuals and contact them. When I worked at an agency down on the Texas coast, it was a retirement community. We had lots of people that came out of the Midwest that bought retirement homes right on the Gulf. And we would, 6 months later, they would contact, family members would contact, say, mom and dad passed away. I've never been to the house down here. What do I need to do? That kind of stuff like that. Oh, by the way, did they have any life insurance? Put all that contact information of who these people are in there. And then you can put your essential documents in there. And besides your will, everybody should have a will. It's cheap. It's easy to do. Make sure you knock that out. Put in there, and oftentimes a lawyer will put a will and a power of attorney on top of that pretty easily for a package price. A financial power of attorney that if you become incapacitated, who can act on your behalf, as well as a medical power of attorney that way. And then put your instruction letters. Here's what I want to do. Here's where I want you to bury me, cremate me, all those wishes, all that kind of stuff. Those are the essentials that you want to put in an ICOD folder. Now, MJ and I have condensed this down to a one-page document, front and back, that we will send you. If you want one of these, I'm going to give you my email address at the end of the day, and I will send you, or at the end of the conversation, I'll send you by the end of the day, this checklist. That way you've got it, you can go through it, and as you're walking through it, put it together. And the reason I do this is simply because these two people right here on the screen, this is my mom and my daughter. And at Christmas last year, both me, my wife, my daughter, my sons, and my mom noticed that she was repeating herself a lot more. She was asking the same question multiple times. Just seemed to be more confused. She'll be 81 on Monday the 9th. You know, still very healthy overall, but she notices that she's slipping a little bit more. So I really started to say, we've got to put this list together. We've got to get these things in order, and we've got to start asking these questions. Where are these documents? Can I meet with any advisor that you have? Who are your doctors? Like I said, mom's very healthy, but she has a specific doctor she likes. She has a specific pharmacy that she likes. What are those things so that I can be responsible, my brother can be responsible? Then, if you've been on these webinars, you know that my dad spent the last 2 years of his life in a nursing home with dementia. I want to know what mom wants to be done for her long-term care. You know, if she has to be, somebody has to bathe her, dress her, help her go to the bathroom, you know, do you want somebody that you know to move in with you? Do you want us to hire somebody? Do you want to move close to us? I mean, we just live a few miles away, move into our house, that kind of thing. Those type of questions asked now before it's in a situation where it's too late to ask that. And then we've had this conversation. She grew up in northern part of Texas on the Red River border between Oklahoma. That's the family plots up there. She bought the family plot. She wants to be buried back up there. She's got all that taken care of. So just knowing where those are, what kind of end of life conversations, those type of things. And if you face a medical crisis, what kind of treatment do you want? All these conversations that we had with my stepmother and my father before he went into the nursing home, having the same conversations with mom, just to make sure. Ask those questions now. Now, there's another tool that AARP put out in conjunction with the University of Minnesota. And if you want that ICOD checklist and you email me, I'll email you, show you my email address in a moment. I'll also send you this link. This is a phenomenal document that AARP put together. It is an online document that you can fill out online, or you can print it and handwrite it out as well. It's all about having that financial conversation that says, who's my trusted financial advocate, how to organize that financial information, start those conversations, and then what happens when I can no longer mentally provide for my financial well-being, how to shift that conversation. So it's not easy conversation, but it really walks you step by step through that process so that you can have logical conversations and not emotional conversations between you and your brothers and sisters when the time comes. We got to take care of mom because it's too late at that point. So again, mom's very independent. We've done some things based on this right now with my brother and I. We just want to make sure we continue to follow that. I'll send you this link if you want that as well. It's really a neat piece, and is great to have conversations. So if the kids are coming over for Mother's Day, if they're you're going to see them, during the summer, that kind of stuff, this is a great time to start that conversation and let them know what you have, understand what's available to you as well. Okay. Now, we're going to talk more about this later on, but I want to hit this specifically simply because MJ brought it up a little bit about the conversation with her winnings last night. There are 5 major threats to your nest egg: taking care of elderly parents, death of a spouse without life insurance, boomerang kids, a medical crisis, and right now one that everybody's looking at, especially those of us who are nearing retirement age, or like many of you already in retirement age, overexposure to the stock market the older we get. Now, those of you that are in this situation right now, you remember back in 2008, 2009 with the housing pop, when the stock market went down 50% in a period of 3 or 4 months. If you would have retired at that point, which some of you may have, fortunately, you've built your money back up. You've been on a winning streak. But if you had to lock in your income right then because you were afraid that you were going to lose even more, some people couldn't afford to do that. Can you afford to have another drop in your nest egg, during that time? The stock market's down significantly. I don't even look at my phone anymore. I don't even look at online to see what my value of my 401ks, things like that is. But having some type of plan that as you get older, taking some of those winnings off the table. We've had some really good runs, and many of us are still ahead. But if you need that money for your retirement years, you want to take that off. And unfortunately, savings rates are pretty low right now. You look at the savings rates out here, you can't find anything over 1%. And at 1%, you're still getting eat up because of inflation out there. So inflation's running at 8.5%. If I could find something anywhere close to 6, 7%, I'd jump in there, that type of thing as well. I don't know what stock market's going to do. I do know that you can take some of that money off the table. There is a WREA endorsed asset protection plan that you can put some of your money into that allows you to participate in the fun part of the stock market, meaning that when it goes up, you get the portion of those gains. But if it drops, you don't lose any money. The thing I like about it is it does have some long-term care benefits inside of that as well. And so as MJ mentioned, she's been helping many WREA members walk through this process to understand what that means to take a portion of your assets and protect them, but also to protect you. As I mentioned, my father in his nursing home situation, because he has had dementia and passed away from dementia, that limits my long-term care insurance options. This particular plan allowed me to take some money and put it in there, knowing that I can't lose any money, that I'm going to gain when the stock market gains, but when it goes down, I don't lose anything. But it gives me long-term care benefits that if I need it, I can take it out without penalty. Or if I'm already taking out periodic payments and have to be confined to a nursing home, it will double my payments for me. So there's some really good benefits. And MJ, if you want to jump in and just share something that you were talking with your client this morning that kind of interested in them in taking that money off the table, for lack of a better term.
Well, thank you, John. One of the things is, one of the things you just mentioned, we're not gaining anything really with the savings accounts, right? So there's no money that we're actually losing because of the inflation. So the little bit that's getting paid out and then the inflation that's there, it's like we're kind of going backwards, right? The other thing is the stock market itself. As that goes up and down, you see the fluctuations with that. And at this stage in, even in my life, I don't want to be, I've got time, but do I really want to take that chance and that risk? And so what was nice with this couple, and it's, we're looking at a couple of different plans of theirs to be able to roll things over so that they can protect their hard-earned money. I'm going to share a story that I shared at the meeting last week, where I worked with a different couple in Wisconsin. And at the beginning of let me back up, at the end of last year, they had approximately 89,000 in one of their accounts. Okay. At the end of first quarter, that $89,000 lost over 10,000, I believe it was $10,851 in one quarter. They had gone on vacation. They came back from being on vacation, and she received something in the mail that basically said that that same fund had lost another $4,000. So approximately $15,000 that was lost from the end of December through the middle of last month. So they wanted to get that over faster than fast. And we were already in the process of starting to do that. But the fact of the matter is they are now feeling very comfortable because that money that they've worked so hard for is protected, and they know they're not going to see it go down. They're going to see the upside potential without any downside loss.
Exactly. Thank you, MJ. Appreciate that. And I want to share, as we talk about this conversation about, taking some of that money off the table, protecting yourself in a lot of different ways. Part of that is because of required minimum distributions. So think about this. Required minimum distributions, in my opinion, it's the way the government gets their share. This is money that you have set aside, tax deferred, for lack of a better term. Think about IRAs, 403B accounts, 401k accounts, things like that. It's not your pension. It's not a Roth IRA. It's not money that you've just saved up and put in a CD or a money market account. It's those things that you put away tax deferred. Think about that couple that MJ talked about. They went to bed December 31st with 89,000. We all went to bed with a lot more money December 31st than we woke up May 1st with, because the stock market has been going down. Required minimum distributions force you to take money out of these accounts, and they may force you to take them out not when you want to, but when you have to. And you have to take them, these required minimum distributions, you have to take them each year, but they're based on the previous year's account balance. So think about this individual that had $89,000 and now they've got $74,000, $75,000. They've lost a pretty good chunk of change, or even more than that. But they've got to take out, because the government says there's a portion that based on your age that you have to take this out. I'll show you that example in a moment. Based on that 89,000. So they've got to take more money out that they've lost on as a whole, so they don't have as much to gain back in the future. So again, RMDs can impact the timing of when you want to do something. Required minimum distributions forever and ever and ever used to be when you reached age 70 and a half, you had to start taking this money out of your account. During COVID, they pushed that to 72. There's laws that are not on the books, but there are bills that are proposed to become law to move that progressively up to 75, which I think is a great deal, because we're living longer. You need to prepare longer and keep a hold of your money for longer. Now you have to take your first required minimum distribution out of your pre-tax accounts that you've been saving for by April 1st of the year after you turn 72. So if you turn 72 this year, you have until April 1st of next year to take your money out, the first required minimum distribution. Every year after that, you have to take it out by December 31st. So you can take the timing a little bit differently in that. But if you turned 72 last year, you took your first required minimum distribution before April 1st of this year, you still have to do another required minimum distribution before December 31st of this year as well. And the way that you do this, and again, MJ and I are not tax professionals. I encourage you to have tax professionals do this. TurboTax and those type of things, they kind of do this. I don't feel real comfortable with it. I'd encourage you again to go to someone to do it for you. The IRS uses a table based on your age. It is the aggregate of all of your IRA accounts. And again, it's based on the balance of the previous year. So again, for those taking RMDs out this year, some people are saying, I'm going to wait until the very last moment because I don't know if I can make that money up because I'm having to pay a larger amount from last year. So this is an example of Nancy here. And I'll come back to the conversation about 403Bs and 401Ks in a moment. Nancy, age 72, she had $125,000 in her first IRA, $100,000 in another IRA, so 2.25. She applies the table factor and divides it by 27.4. She has to take out of her account an additional $8,000 this year, $8,000 plus dollars. That's not what she owes the IRS. That's added to her gross income and then is taxed accordingly. It can impact your deductions, meaning you may be able to no longer file itemized deductions. You may have to use the standard deduction or vice versa. So there's different things that it impacts. It could impact your Medicare premiums if that RMD kicks you into a higher income bracket. So the impact of RMDs is very specific. If you have a 403B plan or a 401K or a 457 for school leaders, things like that, if you have any one of those type of accounts, those are done separately, meaning they're considered separately as well. Any individual plans that you have, those are taxed or not taxed. The RMD is figured collectively or aggregately. So it's a little bit confusing. Again, that's why I encourage you, have some tax professional do this for you. But you need to watch out for some things. And simply I say this because I have had too many clients, too many people that MJ's talked to tell us, my advisor didn't take my RMDs out or they didn't do them properly. Well, shame on them, but it's a penalty on you. You have a 50% tax penalty if you don't take out your proper RMDs. You do have some flexibility. You can take the RMDs out from where you want to. If you want to take them out from one particular plan over another because it performed poorly and you want to liquidate it, or one because it's better, it's growing, you still have a way to make money that way, you can decide that, which fund is performing the best. You can decide if you want to take them annually, you want to take them out periodically, monthly. You can decide if you want the fund to take the taxes out for you so that at the end of the year, you don't have to worry about that. Again, as I mentioned, don't always rely on your fund manager, your advisor, to take out your RMDs for you. Some companies will send you a letter that says you have this amount of money, you're required to take out this amount, but unless you do something, they're not going to do anything. And you don't have to take out cash. If you've got land in an IRA or you've got tangible assets or gold, silver, something like that, or actual bonds, stock certificates, you can take it out in that format if you want to. If you have a much younger spouse, 10 years or more younger than you, there are different tax treatments for that and different tables that they use. So just FYI, know that some things are done a little bit different if you've got a much younger spouse that way. All right. We get asked this all the time. And I hope I'm in this position. And MJ, I hope you're in this position too at some point where we don't have to need our RMDs. You know, we're still, everything's going great. Some people will take their RMDs if they don't need them to live on, to eat on, and they'll use them for long-term care. They'll actually purchase some type of long-term care policy, short-term care policy, or they'll look for some type of a hybrid product that maybe does life insurance for a lump sum with a little bit of benefit for long-term care. Some people will look, use it to fund an inheritance or college expenses for kids, things of that nature. Some will convert it to a Roth IRA, meaning they'll pay the taxes and they'll throw it right back into a savings vehicle that grows tax-free in the future. So it's just another way to hold on to your money that way. Some will make a qualified charitable contribution. And there are some really neat provisions in here up to, I think it's around $10,000 that you can make a qualified charitable contribution and it's not taxed the same way. So just look out there. There's some opportunities out there that you can use with those RMDs. and know that you can do some things with them if you don't have to have them just to live on. So I know we've talked about a lot of stuff when it comes to RMDs. This was a request from a association member that says, I need to know about it. What are the law changes? What does it do? And what happens if I don't need RMDs? What can I do with them? So that's some ways that you can do that. We'll see if there's any more questions that have popped in out here. All right, Bonnie asked about what is a 529 plan? Okay, Bonnie, that's a great question. Let me go back here just real quick while we're talking about it. A 529 plan is a college savings plan. Every state has a college savings plan, a 529 plan, that allows anybody, parent, grandparent, whatever, to put a certain amount of money into this plan. It grows tax-free when used for college. Now, in the state of Texas, there's no tax advantage because we don't have a state income tax. In other states, Wisconsin may be one, you may get some special advantages if you put it into the Wisconsin 529 plan. Now, these plans, for the most part, are pretty well managed. They, again, are designed for college education and expenses. In my case, we had 3 of them for my 3 kids. My oldest one went to a state school, stayed at home for 2 years, and it lasted, his 529 plan lasted all 4 years of college. My other 2 decided to go to a private school, move away from home, and it lasted 1 semester. So, you know, you can use it that way. The nice thing about this is the money that comes out, it can be used for not only tuition, but books, rent, transportation, computers, the whole 9 yards. If one kid didn't use the money, we could transfer it to another family member. You can transfer it up to cousins. Grandparents can fund it up to a certain amount per year. You can use catch-up provisions. There's all kinds of good things that you can do with it. I highly encourage you to do it. I'm so thankful we had it for our kids. So that's one thing that some people are using their plans for. There's no special tax benefit from your RMDs to a 529 plan. It's just a way that some people are using it. But that's a great question, Bonnie. Thank you for asking that. Okay. WEAC told me I cannot put RMDs into my Roth. I don't know specifically about what WEAC says. I just know from a Roth perspective, you usually have to take it out, pay the taxes on it, and then put it back into a Roth or something like that. So it's got to be a total out. It can't just be done automatically, usually in that situation, from that situation there. Okay. David asked about the email. I have not given you my email yet. I'll give you my email here in just a moment that you can get that. We do want to make sure that you take advantage of that opportunity for you that way. Because again, as I mentioned, just wrapping this up real quickly, we got to prepare for a lot more years of living. Age expectancy continues to go up. So does inflation, so do life changes. There's a lot of things that take place out there. And that's part of the reason we have these educational webinars, so that you can understand not only where your health challenges are, what you got to look out for, but we'll make sure that we've got enough money to live that way, to live long into our years. Most people aren't afraid of death. They're afraid of outliving their income. And so we want to make sure that we can protect you in a lot of different ways that way. So just a couple of reminders about our spring education calendar. Our next one is next month, or not next month, here in 2 weeks. It's hard to believe it's already May. We're going to talk about all the discounts and benefits. And since I'm talking about discounts and benefits, just a reminder, you may be the mother that they're honoring this Sunday. You may also have mothers that are still with us. 1-800-Flowers through the Passport program is offering 20% off flowers. So it's a great way to recognize your mom. Chris, I know you're still on here. Save some money, take care of your mom, and you know, use some discounts that you get through WREA. In June, we're going to talk about long-term care, our most popular webinars, really dig into that on the 22nd, hit the highlights on the 8th. And then on the 25th, this Saturday, tell your friends that are still teaching. First of all, when you call them and say, hey, I appreciate you, what you're doing, tell them about the pre-retirement webinar on Saturday, the 25th, that morning. We're going to come in and do a lot of fun stuff. We're going to do, you know, talk about not only what retirement is, just the nuts and bolts. Diane's going to nail that, but you've given us some input on what it's like to be retired. So we're going to kind of share those tips, what I wish I would have known, what people need to know about retirement as well. And also a reminder on the 8th, we're going to talk about the WEAC trust and the long-term care as well, kind of how that, some of the changes that took place on that. So that's what's out there. All right. Again, tell your friends about this webinar. This is a great way to introduce them to WREA. Let them know some of the value, the fireside chats, the content, the continuing education that comes along with your WREA membership. All right, I'm going to open it up for questions here. Susan asked, how do you use an RMD for a long-term care policy? Okay, Susan, the way that I've seen this done is two different ways. And it's harder the older you get because it's harder to qualify for a long-term care policy. But long-term care insurance, a qualified long-term care plan, meaning that it's truly a long-term care insurance policy, has different tax treatments that allow you to take some money that was pre-tax and purchase a long-term care plan and not be taxed as much or not use that money for, like I said, for lack of return, any type of taxes on that. So that's one way that most people will use that type of RMD money that way if they qualify for a long-term care plan. Now, there are many other endorsed plans in addition to long-term care through WREA. Most of those do not qualify for that tax treatment, but you could use the funds to pay for those to just take care of that. Just so you're designating money to take care of your long-term care needs. Others will take that lump sum RMD. And, a lot of times we think, well, what can I do with $8,000? You would be surprised, depending upon your health, you may be able to purchase a lump sum or a single premium policy, life insurance policy, that has some long-term care benefits inside of it. Or a single premium life policy that would, in arrears, pay back your family, for lack of a better term, for your long-term care needs while you had it living. So that's just, like I said, so it's a broad statement in there. I hope that kind of clears it up. There's different ways, but mostly it was about taking that RMD money, and if you didn't need it to run your household, designating that money towards long-term care needs. Be either purchase some type of plan that covers that, or a life insurance plan that would pay back your savings for your family or surviving spouse if you went into a nursing home and then passed away, or just using that money, setting it aside in something that grew tax-free that you could use for your long-term care that way. So great question that way. So if you want more information about that tax-deferred asset protection plan that MJ talked about, if you want more information about long-term care, short-term care, simply take your smartphone, open up your camera feature and hover over that QR code. Hover over that QR code, a little form will pop up. You can select what you want to have information about, or just check benefit review and find about all the fun stuff and all the good stuff that WRA members get access to. Put your name in there, send it off. We'll get back from Chris or MJ, somebody from the team, sometime very quickly. If you simply want that ICOD checklist and that link to the AARP roadmap to financial conversations, there's my email address down there, jon.green@amba.info. Shoot me an email, just say checklist or put it in the subject line, checklist. I'll make sure you get that. If you're joining us on your phone or an iPad and you can't use that QR code, you can email me as well and just say benefit review or long-term care, whatever it is. We'll make sure MJ and her team get back as well on that. So I'm going to stop recording now. I know we've gone over our